All right, welcome everybody to our latest Between the Races podcast on the mxvice network. Thank you everyone for listening and supporting the site. We really appreciate it. We'd first like to thank our sponsors in Fly Racing, Monster Energy, Fox, Parts Europe, Scott, Bell Helmets, Acherby's, AS3 Performance, Kawasaki UK, KTM UK, O'Neill, and of course Even Strokes for all their incredible support. As without them, none of this would be possible. All right, for this episode, we're joined by Brian Jorgensen, former GP star and now trainer, back again for the third podcast, mate. How's life? And thanks for joining us. The fans are really loving these ones.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot for inviting me back. It's quite a few times now. So no, I really enjoyed it, and I hope the fans also likes it. You know, I try to come with, of course, some of the knowledge that I have over the many years of being in the sport as a rider, but also now as a coach. But yeah, life is good. I'm back here in Spain. I just came home from south of France, where we have been holding the Blue Crew, the Yamaha Blue Crew Masterclass, as we spoke a little bit about before. So we had like 16 riders, and we had to pick out one rider from each class: 65, 85, and 125. And I was in great company with people from Yamaha Europe, but also with Gauchien Paulin and Nancy Van de Ven, which was a former world champion in the women. So it was good to have them on board, and being being a good evaluator of the riders and see what they're capable of, and finally have to choose a winner in each class. And this year was really tough, because the procedure that we have is, of course, they have the Yamaha Blue Crew race, which is the same as Motocross of Nation, as many people will probably know. And then there's going to be 1, 2, and 3 in each class that get picked out for this masterclass, and then we take a couple of reserves as well that we think that deserves the opportunity. And then we basically go and do like a training school for them on the first day. And the second day, we let them do a bit of racing together to see how they pass, how do they approach when there becomes a little bit of pressure from the rear. Because also in One, especially for the 65, the track was very much watered like it should be in the morning, but it was a bit of a challenge for those small riders. So maybe there were some people that fall behind that didn't show the full potential. So here we had a couple of days with them, talking with them personally, each and every one, and then actually get to teach them and see how well do they adapt to things that I say, or Gauchien Paulin, or even Nancy Van de Ven. How do they approach the thing? How is the attitude? Because when we do collect the rider, it's not only about just speed, just pure speed, or how the race went in the weekend, at One, but also the social skills, the attitude that they have, and of course, like everything adds up, and that's how we choose the winner. So it was great. It was perfect weather. The Beauvaison track, man, have done an incredible job. It's actually been raining for a couple of days, so the people went out on Monday as we're starting the training on Tuesday, said, it's a little bit muddy, but it was 26 degrees on Tuesday and Wednesday. So the track was just unbelievable. Maybe there's not many times that you see like this. So busy, but some great days, and see many happy people. So that makes me happy as well.
Obviously, the talent level's so high, mate, and that Blue Crew Cup is obviously really hard to choose the riders. And obviously, just maybe tell us a little bit about the support packages they get, the ones that get selected, because it's a pretty cool thing to work towards, and they definitely get rewarded for showcasing their skills, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. It's a honestly, being involved with Yamaha and seeing what they're actually giving back to the kids. Being a kid myself many years ago, with maybe not a lot of finances, and we've been through that story, and how I had to go out and get sponsors to make it, because of they didn't have a family with a lot of money. And this is a great opportunity for the young riders to have some support. So the people that the person that we select for the 65 and 85, they get some support from the local deal, where they can borrow a couple of bikes and they get some spare part budget. But the 125 rider that wins, he wins a year for free with JK Racing. And then me as a coach, starting, in Red Sand and making the preparation during the winter. I'm gonna go to the races and I'm gonna visit, them wherever they are in Europe and train with them also during the season. So, and then at the races, obviously there's always that there's not a lot you can teach during the weekend because there's already enough thing going on for a rider. But just being there and being, 4 eyes instead of 2 eyes, of course, can help with the experience that I have, looking at a track. So yeah, it's a great program, and we have to make a selection. And it was a bit more difficult this year, I would say, than the other years. But we are 4 people there to judge. So it's not only me that judging the riders and picking out the riders. So I can leave some of the responsibility over to to their hand as well, and to have Nancy and Gauthier and Pauline, with being the rider that he was in the sport as well, is great because you have different things that you're looking at. You have different point of views, and it's great to put that in a big basket and pick out the rider that we believe most on here. And there was also some riders where we think, okay, he's going to be really good in the future, but maybe now he's a little bit too young, But it was a great day. Some great days.
Yeah, I'm sure the kids really enjoyed it as well, having 3 legends of the sport in a lot of ways. It's not something they get to do every day as well, so they would have definitely taken a lot from it, mate. Even if they don't get selected, I'm sure they've got a lot to work on in the future in their own careers. So I guess it'll be pretty cool for you to follow their progress, having seen them, at this age. And then obviously as they progress into the professional senior ranks, it's kind of cool, mate, because, you can see, how some riders adapt, how riders challenge it. And something we were talking about was definitely the mentality a lot on these podcasts and how to deal with it, I guess, earn respect in some ways. So, rising to challenges. And one thing we definitely wanted to touch on was the mind games that you sort of faced, racing against the guys like Everts, Smets, Marnik, so many guys in there that, they've got their superiority and they want to hold their supremacy, mate. They don't kind of want to let anyone in or, someone that's sort of a bit of an outsider or an underdog. They want to sort of keep the chosen few, mate. So how was that for you, trying to break in and sort of unsettle them and, and also the mind games they played with you and how you adapted to it? Because obviously you have your own way of dealing with it and then you sort of end up fighting fire with fire a bit to sort of flex it on them too, to show that you mean business. So that's a pretty cool dynamic that we definitely wanted to speak about on this podcast.
Yeah, well, we talked about it after the last podcast and last time, and I said, coming from the 125 going into the 250, but then moving from the 125 up to the 500 class, where Monique Bervoets, Joel Smith, and Stefan Everts was probably the dominant little group there with just being Belgium. So it was almost like you can say that you felt it was a Belgium championship and nobody should come into this little circle and destroy the image and the results and the battle that they already had between each other, being from Belgium. So there was definitely some time there for me that I had to really man up and show them that I was not just someone just to be there because I want to be a number in the sport, but actually want to be there because I wanted to be a world champion. And I remember one of my first episodes when moving into the 500 class with the old, you can always say the old brand of Husqvarna, which was manufactured by Cativa, which was his Italian brand before KTM bought Husqvarna. And I will be more than honest to say that the bike was not incredible. It was a 450 with not so many horsepower, with a lot of kilos, but I adapted to that riding style after riding the 125 for a couple of years after my first factory 250 ride in '99, and it actually suited me quite well because I didn't have a lot of power. The positioning of the bike actually was okay for me. There was of course a couple of challenges with suspension and bits and pieces all the time. And but coming into the first race at Falkenswart for the World Championship 500, I remember going on the track and just learning the track, and I was of course a little bit nervous because actually that year I signed with Vatamati in 2002, and that didn't go on for many months, and then we actually went to Husqvarna, being the teammate from a guy called Johnny Linde, a Swedish guy, and Alexander Pusar, which was already a well-established rider, and a couple of times world champion, and a bit of a funny character as well. So it was great to be the teammate of him, and we could train together. But coming into Falkenswart, I remember getting on the track, and I think I only done like half a lap. And you're always a bit nervous when you move up to a new class, and you have to kind of find out who are the riders here. Of course, like Stefan Everts and Joel Smith is someone that you kind of had respect for and looked up to for many years, being the little class rider in 125, and now you are here with them. So now you have to find that balance between I want to show them who I am and why I'm here. It didn't it didn't go that well on the first one, because I remember like I only done like half a lap, and then this guy starts screaming at me from behind. This was just a free practice, and I believe at that time, without knowing it completely, but I think we had 2 times 40 minutes and then a 45 minutes qualifying, so there was enough time to actually learn the track. But he came up and he was screaming after me, and I was like, okay, who is this guy? And I looked back and it was Smets and Bervoets, and I was like, fuck, okay, I have 2 choices now. Either I just like pull to the side and like, oh, here you go, big champ, or I kind of just don't give a shit, and then just show him that if you are that good, you can just pass me. So we did maybe a couple of laps, and he was getting more and more frustrated behind me, and he was revving the bike, putting the clutch in, and then he was screaming one more time, and I thought, fuck it, this is it. So I pulled to the side after the finish line, and then behind the start is like a 180-degree corner. So I thought, okay, I'm let him to the side, let him know that I'm just gonna let him pass, but then I'm gonna show that I'm not here just for fun. So I let him pass actually, and then when he turned left down in the next corner, I just rammed him completely, and I hit him so hard, and he just looked at me like, who the fuck are you? What in the hell are you thinking of? I'm Monique Bervoets, and we didn't speak the words, but and I was like, I don't give a shit who you are. That's how I was thinking, my mentality. And we kind of had a little bit of a scrap on that lap, and then he went, and that was it. And then he waited for me when I come in after the practice, and he was like, "Fuck, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And why don't you just let me pass?" So I said, "Well, give me a good reason why I should let you pass. If you're that fucking good, which you are actually, kind of announcing that you are, you should be able easily passing me, because I'm nobody." But I believe that I did pay the same price for the license that you did, and the insurance and everything else. So I believe that I have the same right to actually ride this track however I want. And if you are a lot better than me, which you obviously think you are, you can just pass me in any corner with no problem, because you're that fucking good. And then he kind of shut up, and then he was like, and then he went off. And then, slowly that season, I got some pretty good results on that bike, and I remember, I don't know if it was 4th round or something like that. He came over to me and he said, "You know what? I'm actually sorry that I behaved the way that I did, because it was not like I don't respect you. It was just we had a lot of pressure, and obviously there's always 2 sides to a story of a person that reacts like that. There could have been something else going on, but anyway, I appreciate it. He came over to me and said sorry, because and I'm glad that I reacted the way that I did, because I think I have as much right to do my best, and he doesn't know where I come from or how I came into motocross. And we talked about that story before, and that was also not so easy. So it's not like everything has been given to me. I had to fight for everything. So that's why I didn't take any bullshit for anything, because I know how much, I might look or may look like a little pretty boy that was just there for the ride, but I was actually there for trying to win a world championship, and that's was my desire in life, and I came, so fucking far to get there. So I just wanted, to have respect for people. So that's how it started, and the same with Smets. We talked about further on moving up to the mxgp class, which was in 2003 when they put the classes together. I had the same kind of reaction a little bit for Joel Smith, because obviously in the 500 class, I finished 8th in the world championship, and Stefan Everts won the world championship the first time on Yamaha after he's come back with his knee from 2001. Yeah, that was his second world championship that time, actually, I think. But then moving up to the mxgp class, which was again another step for me, going in with riders like Michael Pichon, who's already been 2 times world champion on Suzuki. There was another approach again, and another way that you had to get the respect for the riders. And I remember Joel Smith, then we became more, I became a lot more competitive because I moved to Honda Martin, and I really find out what a 450 could really do on a motocross track, with a great power, amazing frame, and the way that the bike worked. But also working with Honda Martin for me was also a very good, because it was a professional team that was supported by HRC with small parts, but it was still like a really family kind of warm Italian way of running the team, So my mechanic at that time was a guy called Henrico, and it was a great mechanic, and we had our own little team in a team, you can say, and start riding with Stefan then and Joel Smith. Obviously, me and Stefan trained together in 2000 down in Red Sand, and I was on a 125. We rented a house together. We lived together when he was with Factory Husky, L&M Husky at that time. And, we were really friends, and we went training, and, but now we looked at each other a little bit different, because now it became competitors, even if he was, many times world champion and I was not a world champion, but he already knew that I had the talent and the skills to do it. So now it was for me just to putting the package together and trying to actually live it out. So, after the first couple of rounds of the world championship, I knew that I had, I kind of find out that I could actually do this. I could run, top 5 consistently. And if I could run top 5, I could also, start dreaming about top 3 and maybe even, getting some podiums on a consistency. So in Teutzenthal 2003, actually, I took a good start, and I believe that was the 4th round, but didn't quite believe enough in myself. So I stayed in the top 3 in a long time. Smets came back from 4th, and we were going for 3rd place, and I hold him back for many laps. I didn't even realize it was him, because I just always look forward. And he passed me eventually, the last 10 minutes of the race or whatever it was. But when I watched the interview back on Eurosport a week later, because there was a guy actually that came to the World Championship that always gave me a copy of the VHS that I could watch the race at home, because we were not as strong as social media at that time that we are today. And then I rewinded the race, and then I watched this interview. And this interview, Joel Smith said, like a little bit of a, how can you say, like there was a lot of rivalry between him and Stefan Everts, Joel Smith and Stefan Everts. So when Stefan won and Joel didn't win, I will not say that Joel made excuses, at all, but he was maybe a little bit irritated that I hold him back. That's what he was conferring to, that I was holding him back. But he didn't know my name or didn't know my number. motocross race number. So he was like, yeah, this guy was just holding me back, and I could have come up and passed Stefan, but because this guy was all over the place, I don't know his name, but he was just pissed, kind of like pissing me off, and I was like, okay, that was not very nice to to hear. So down on my I had like a cellar in Italy where I lived, and I had like a Krapovich poster, which I got from a Krapovich because we started working with a Krapovich in 2003 with Honda Martin, and there was Joel Smith on it. So I wrote on the poster, I said, "Fuck you, I'm gonna beat you one day." So every time that I did my cycling, I was looking at this poster, and it just really winded me up because all I wanted was actually just respect. I'm not I'm not here to just fool around. I'm here to fucking race. And again, if I hold you up or do things, maybe I'm doing the right thing and you're doing the wrong thing, because if you're that fucking good, you should just be easily passing me. But I guess it's also his frustration, when you get to his age at that time and there's young people coming up. Of course, it's irritating when someone just comes into who is this guy. So there was definitely when we're talking about earning your respect, and then we actually came to Bulgaria, and I think I was maybe second or third in qualifying, and I really loved that track, Sarajevo, and there was a lot of up and down hills, and I already had a good start the previous year on a bike that didn't have a lot of power, and because there were so many up and down hills, I of course lost out of speed, but now I was on a good bike, and I had incredible feeling with the bike, and I felt I was a lot stronger mentally and also physically for this year coming. So I was actually in the lead, and it was leading for about 15-20 minutes, not really knowing that even if it was really hot, how my body would probably react to it. So after 20 minutes, I completely felt like, maybe had like a 6, 7, 8, second lead. And I was like, why is people not, why they're not going faster? Yeah, I was just nailing every lap and keeping my lap times. And we came into about 20-22 minutes of the race. I was like, there was someone hit me with a big pan, I just completely run out of hydration. And then Stefan came by me, and then I came to this situation, in my racing career where I thought, okay, now I need to man up, because I was already start fading a little bit on lap times. And Joel Smith came up behind me, and I was like, fuck, now it's the time to actually show him, my name, but also show the number so he remember it, and that was 30. I rode with number 30 that year in my first year in the mxgp class, like MX1 it was called that time. So I kind of I didn't let him by, because I was finished when we came into 27 or 28 minutes of the moto, and he passed me, and then I passed him back on the big tabletop before the finish, and I remember looking at him because it was such a big tabletop, and I was just actually looking at him. He was looking down on me, and Joel Smith was a fantastic rider, very strong rider in so many ways, but scrubbing, putting the bikes sideways and stuff like that, he was definitely not the last revolution for this. He was more about the corner speed and strength, and all the other things that also you need. So I could jump really low on that jump. I probably was let's say the new generation in that class, where I had a good technique, and I could do scrubbing and those things, not Tim Geiser scrubbing when he came out, or Bubba Stewart, but in my own little way. So I passed him on that jump, and then it was a left-hand corner before the mechanic area, and it was a very high speed jump, but also a high speed braking into the corner, and you can go inside and you can go high in the berm. So when I was on the inside there, and I passed him on the jump, so we were like going side by side down to that left-hand corner, and I was just looking at him thinking, is he gonna duck underneath me, or what's gonna happen here? And when he went up in the berm and I was approaching the inside, I was like, this is it, I just go straight, I just go straight after his front wheel, because now I definitely wanna make sure that he do remember my name, and he can also remember my number. So that was a you know, can say like a big step in my career that I actually manned up, and you know, because I was so many times that year on top 5, and now I felt now it was time to get on the podium to make that next step, you know. But to do that, I needed to show, you know, that I was not taking just a no for a no, that I will fight for every lap that I have and every opportunity that I get. And I wanted definitely him to know my name and number. So I rammed him really hard. And I remember, you know, it was only 3 laps to go. And I was like, fuck, he's going to ride through me in the next corner, you know. So I really like tried to get off and get a little bit of a gap. But he caught me up and he finally passed me, and there was no hard feelings. And that was my first podium of the mxgp class in 2003. And of course, I was really happy with that. And you know, after that, we had, you know, we were not friends, but when I beat him in Germany as well, and going up to I was second. Stefan Everts won again, and I was second in Germany in Geildorf on a very hard packed track. And I remember, you know, standing there waiting for the camera to come around and to make this interview. And I turned around and it was Joel Schmidt there, and I was like, you are here as well. And he was like, yeah, what do you mean I'm here? So I said, yeah, but I didn't even see you at the race. You know, this is the mind game, you know. And I was like, I didn't even see you. He said, I was just behind your rear wheel for 40 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever it was. I think it was 35 minutes plus 2 laps. So it's really weird. I didn't even, and I felt the pressure, but you know, 3 laps to go, he actually made like a crash because he was coming a little bit close, and I was pulling away and coming a little bit close. And his last attempt to try to pass me, he had where the front wheel slip out, you know, because it was such a difficult track to be aggressive on, because it was like riding on asphalt, you know. It was like you had to be on your limit, but one time you're over the limit, you will go down and you know, hurt yourself. And I just looked at him like, who are you? I mean, I didn't even see you around the track, but well done for finishing third, you know. And that was in the memory of of what he just said, you know, a couple of months before. So I guess, you know, when we talk about mental strength and showing your potential and want to have respect, you know, that was my first little manifesting of actually writing this piece on the paper, on the poster, you know, and I'm gonna beat you one day, and keep working towards that. And when I manifested that in my head, I knew that it would happen someday, you know. Even sometimes it's you set goals that you think, are they realistic, you know. But I do believe that if you have a good mindset and you're willing to work hard and you work towards something, you will get it, you know, sooner or later. It's just, you know, it's just important that you don't quit, because you will get what, if you can say that you deserve it, you know. And that was my little you know, respect mind game with Stefan and also Joel Smith. And you know, that came into the next year as well, when then I felt I was actually a competitor to maybe, if I had any feeling in my career that I could be a world champion, was definitely in 2004. And I started using that advantage as well. I very much speak about also the people that I teach today. You know, it's all about, you know, showing that you are capable, and showing your ego, and don't come into the, you know, the waiting zone like with your neck down, and you know, walk like you have already lost. You know, you have to have your chest high, and show a lot of confidence, because that's, you know, you can break a rider if you're coming in with a lot of confidence. You know, I remember small mind games, you know, like if Pichon looked at me and I was keep staring at his eyes, you know, until he would actually back away. And I will use those small things and maybe it didn't play any game in their head, you know, but that was my own little mind game that I was going through to become stronger. And then you will go out on a sighting lap, and then, you know, will always try to be first out. And then the first little jump you will roll on, and if you see that Stefan Everts or Smets was behind, you will just like take the clutch and you will just like go wide open on the throttle, so they will get as much dirt in the face as possible, you know. And that was my little way of, in a funny way, maybe to show a little bit that fuck, I'm I'm gonna win this shit today, and I believe in myself, you know.
Yeah, it can
I
all
don't
play a
know how
part, can't it? Even like the firm handshakes and looking in people's eyes, it all sort of, adapts your mindset and their mindset. Because I guess the process you went through and the way you sort of approached it was pretty cool, mate. Because obviously, firstly, you got to adapt to what's get thrown at you. Then you've obviously got to respond to it. And then I guess through doing what you did, you're placing doubt in their minds as well, because that's what you want in the long run, is to just any little pointer that can knock them down a level or give them something extra to think about. Pretty cool, mate. So you sort of gain an edge. And you also showed no weakness really in that situation. So you probably found your place comfortable battling with them while unsettling them. So it's pretty cool, mate. You sort of worked your way around that situation, navigated, and they definitely knew you meant business by the end of it.
Yeah, and it could be small things like going up to them actually just before you go out, and be like, going out for the hands, like, you okay? Are you feeling strong today? Like saying something that you didn't really mean, but something that when you say things, it's because, are you feeling strong? Because I'm on it today, And you will use those small things at advantage. And like I said, I believe, if you're talking about military or whatever, if you're going into a battle and you're like, like that with your gun and sword, maybe you're not gonna show that you are, you're ready for the fight. You gotta come into that pit lane showing your attitude and showing your confidence, because if you're showing your confidence, some people can have a little bit of a doubt in themselves, and it's all about, and we see that over and over, with racing, and especially when it comes down to the end of the season, there's probably a lot of mind games that normal people don't see, but I see, the way that they approach each other, and can say small things that, that can sit and play in their mind. And I heard that recently on another show with Hayden Deegan, the way that they talk about, playing that mind game, and it can be small things that they can just, kind of hints out, just do the seeds, just plant the seeds like slowly, and if you can make the other one just think, even if he doesn't react to it, but he's like, okay, yeah, he's confident that, that guy. I think this is the part of the game, and you need to learn how to play that game, because if you want to win and win a title in, mxgp or AMA Supercross outdoor or whatever, you got to be up against people that are as competitive as you. And I believe if you're also really good at playing your little mind game and showing your confidence, that's definitely going to take a small part of the other one.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Obviously, you see guys like Hurlings enjoy that kind of thing every now and then. The start of this season, you'd be like Prado, he can win the qualifying races, but I'll get the job done on Sunday kind of thing, when he's obviously got that record-breaking win. So just a cool thing to follow in the sport. And I guess it takes a kind of a confidence and an inner belief to, project that as well, not just to the media, but to other riders too, because you sort of putting yourself in a position where you are placing pressure on yourself to perform in a way, I guess, because a lot of the time you're doing that before the race. So it's not after the fact when you can say whatever. So I guess it's just reaffirming, that you're ready for it. And I guess the head up, shoulders back, looking really after it. You're sort of priming yourself for victory, not like defeated before you've even gone into the battle, if you sort of have that slumped over look. So it's pretty cool. And obviously you'd probably look at guys like Cooper Webb and that Roxon battle, a couple of years ago in Supercross. They're not necessarily the fastest guys sometimes, like Cooper Webb, he would, in the training, he just manages weeks, gets through it.
Yeah.
The dynamic, he doesn't really mind so much what goes on. If someone's faster on the training days, it's not so much of an issue because he's ready for battle come the weekend. So it's all about your preparation and how you want to go about it, isn't it, mate? There's so many ways you can choose to do it. So other than Hurlings and Webb, or you can talk about them too, so who are some of the other guys that, obviously the guys you mentioned, Smets and Everts, Arnick, those kind of guys. Who else do you sort of look for in that aspect as well that was pretty good at it, maybe, that you raced against?
I think, I think Stefan just he didn't do it that much because he obviously he was very confident, especially at the time that I started racing with him, because he was already that many times world champion. So, when you have that many titles, you don't have to show as much as when you're coming up and being in a position like me. It was like it's small edges that you get, to show your consistency of coming into that, pit lane, and being, up with your chest, and being confident, and trying to, you can see. And I remember sitting on the bike, and sometimes watching people, if I was a little bit not that confident that day, for whatever reason. It can be crash during the week. It doesn't take, on that level, it doesn't take a lot of small things, small things to go wrong during the week before your confidence is already a little bit knocked down. And and then other times you come into that weekend, having a incredible training weekend, and maybe when been out riding with your teammate, and you feel really great, you did some great passes, and you feel like, you're on top of the world. And of course that brings a lot of confidence to the weekend, and then you can play a little bit those games, because you are confident and to do business. And but it's not very cool if you show that confidence and you're playing those small mind games, and then you're 25th. Then it kind of like falls apart a little bit. You got to have something to have it in, and you got to be, have done the drills, and that's basically what we talked about in earlier shows. Everything, to gain confidence is basically just to work hard and to be consistent, and sometimes just do enough, because that's what we see also doing, a 20 rounds world championship, with Jeffrey, and the situation that he's been in over the years, or even Katie Wolf, which probably for me personally, thinking that he could be a world champion already this year. But unfortunately, haven't found completely the balance in practice yet, because should I always look and search for the edge, or should I be maybe 5% from the edge and then show the edge in the weekend? Because do you get any points? Do you get any bonus money with winning in Lommel on a Wednesday? No, I don't believe so. But be consistent in the weekend. That's what you learn, and that's being young. And I comment on a message on some post on Instagram, some months ago, and I said that kid, he have all the potential, Katie Wolf, to be a world champion, but he have really to learn quickly now, because and just showing off. He's a rider that rides with a great energy. He do things on a motorcycle that not many people, I think we all that have Instagram have watched the pass from Latvia when he scrubs passes at Benistan. I cannot remember or was it Jago Geerts, and the way that he does that, it was so much confidence, so much energy. And then you can really see the benefit of being able to ride the motorcycle in a way that he can do. If that was 2 jumps before the finish, and that was the difference between winning and losing, that is incredible that you can do those things when you really feel good. So he definitely have all the capability of being a world champion. But unfortunately, as we have seen many times also with Jeffrey Hurlings, and it's not only about just go balls out and be really fast all the times. It's actually also about just do enough. And that was probably what we spoke about in an earlier podcast as well. That's what Caroli, Stefan Everts, it's something that will really
even Prado this year, just consistent.
Yeah. And I actually heard some of I didn't listen completely finished, but I heard some of the podcast on the way home in the plane, and that's where he talks about this. He said, in the end, he was getting quite nervous for practicing because he was like so close to actually having all those points in the lead, and I was just going out and just doing enough. Where you think, well, fair enough. That was really smart of him, because obviously, people like Jeffrey Hurlings, which is also an incredible and a very good rider, there's something maybe missing there, like I don't know if it's proving to himself all the time he can be the best and he can be the fastest, and that's the way he find his edge. Or people like Prado is just, I'm good enough. I know that I'm capable of doing this. So today I'm just gonna do enough. And you know what? That is the difference between, winning and losing, and be consistent, and being a world champion. And I cannot even say myself that I find out those things, but I also wanted to always give 100%. But I also did learn over the years in physical workshop and motocross drills during the week that, the most important is to be consistent, and then actually listen to your own body and finding out how much should I actually do this week, And it takes only experience, and it takes feeling with your own body, but it also takes a very strong mind to just do enough.
Yeah.
And that's what,
and be comfortable
Prado,
not doing enough, because you don't want to fall behind or feel like the others are working hard and you're not. So it's an interesting dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's some of the things that, I used to get pissed off. You're working week in, week out, and then you hear that Stefan Everts has just been jet skiing all week, and you think, fuck, I'm gonna beat it this week, and then they go out and then he's beating you, easily, and you think, I'm doing all this work, but that's something I learned later on in life, and mostly when I retired, that it's not only about working hard, it's also about being smart, and sometimes during the season actually doing a little bit less, that what you maybe should do, but it's better to be fresh and to be your mindset and your head and your body being fresh, because that's where you become a lot more creative on the track. And that's why I think, for me, 2003 worked out so good to me, because there was like MX MotoGP in one weekend, and there was always a weekend off. So I could really schedule that, when I was finished with the race, then I will train a lot doing that, week over the weekend. And when that week was leading up to the next race, I would slowly go down again in drills, and then being fully recuperated for the race. But when it was two races together, I find it more difficult to actually knowing how much I should train and how much I should do. And then I probably overdid that sometimes, and that brought me in the situation that I was in, not from the beginning of the season, because that was totally not my fault when the bike stopped in the air and the bike failure. But the rest I could blame on myself, because then I was already panicking that, now I lost this training, and then you go into the first, and then you realize there's something wrong with your hand and you have to have an operation, and then you come back winning in Teutzenthal thinking, fuck, instead of like embracing that moment, thinking, oh, wait on a minute, I've not done anything for 3 weeks, only like a little bit of cycling. I've not ridden the motorbike for 3 weeks. And then you come out and win both races. Well, I cannot say fairly easy, because it's never easy, but I led every single lap of the 20 laps in each moto. And that, the pin should have dropped for me, and thinking, okay, so maybe training all the time, pushing yourself, doing all the drills, maybe that's not the way for you. Maybe sometimes it's good to relax, But instead of doing that, I went straight to Lommel, because the next race was in Lichtenvoorde, which was a very, deep sand track. So I went to Lommel, train, didn't even enjoy the really moment that I had. It was my now I look back and think that was the highlight of my life, and my career, working that hard to get this benefit and dream out. So it's a very difficult balance, and that's why today a lot more riders, as we see in Star, Yamaha, Prado, have his dad. His dad. He told on the podcast that his dad has only missed his practice 2 times since he was 11 years old. So it's incredible. So they obviously have that dynamic together, and he doesn't need a coach, but he have his dad there to be more of a supportive, and because he becomes an analyzer of Jorge Prado, the way that he rides, how he feels. So he becomes actually a coach for him, and you don't need to learn Jorge Prado how to ride a motorcycle. He's obviously have that massive talent, but to be there, helping him, guiding him, be a support, someone to talk with, that can bring a lot, and that I believe that on this level, working with top riders is not only about just you teaching them to ride a motorcycle, because if you are top 5 in the world and you win races, you can obviously ride on a motorcycle on the highest level. So you don't want to change that too much, but you can fine tune small details and mostly be a supportive person, where you can say, you can do better, or whatever it could be, But there's definitely a very fine line there in motocross, where it's very, very difficult to know when enough is enough. I always say to the riders, try to think about less is more. And that means that sometimes you're always aiming for speed. You want to go more aggressive. You want to go faster into the corner, but actually it's about keeping that momentum and speed in the exit of the corner, because that chooses the gear, that settle the suspension, and everything becomes a lot easier. But to do that, it takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of confidence to, I can ride with that confidence today because, first of all, I have no pressure. Second of all, I have all the experience of how not to do it and how to do it. So you can say that I probably become a lot better rider after I finished my career, because pressure was gone, and you take a rest and then you go out riding. You think, fuck, I'm actually almost as fast, or even sometimes faster than I was, because I'm looking at the track in a different way. And then when you become a coach, you are more aware of it. I remember the last week I was out riding on my 125 Yamaha, and I was actually thinking, okay, so now, I'm in a teaching mode. So what is it that I'm actually saying to the riders, and what I'm doing myself? Does it actually add up? Because sometimes I think, I cannot say like who are coaches, but people maybe teach in a different way, that have been able to and capable of writing themselves, which I'm completely fine with. People can do what they want, but I'm always trying to teach in the same way that I have learned how to ride a motorcycle, and I will never teach people some skills unless they ask me to do the same scrub as Tim Geiser or Bubba Stewart. Then I would probably not today. Let's let's do something else. But most of the things that I'm teaching, I'm able to, I would say 99% I'm able to do it myself, and I can take the bike and show it. Maybe not in the Prado speed or Jet Lawrence speed, but in my own speed, and showing the drills, when to brake, how to brake, when to lean, and all the small details that goes into it. And I think that's important for me anyway, that I teach in the same way that I was capable to ride. And my reputation of being me, when I say to them, you have to train hard and you have to sacrifice, and if I always got tired in the race, and I was a guy that always sit and smoke between races, and eating Burger King, and was 5 stones too fat, and then it maybe doesn't give that punch that fuck, what are you talking about? You didn't train, and you got tired. So I always try to teach as you preach, or whatever you say in English.
Yep.
I think that's very important, and that gives me, as a person today as well as a coach, responsibility. That's why I train a lot. I try to keep myself in line with my own, how can you say, my own perspective of how I want to see and look at myself. What would happen if I put 10 kilos on? Would that doesn't matter? No, it probably doesn't matter, but it does matter to my eyes, because I see something that I don't like to see, and because I'm always been toned and lived by my physical condition and being a motocross rider. And now a coach is important, how I influence other people, and as much as I can, even with diets, with training. I'm able to, like I said, when Bobby Bruce come down, I'm able to be on a high level for cycling, that I don't sit there and I cannot breathe, and it's it's just a little thing that's important for me. And I think trying to be, if you want to be a coach, for me it's important to show the image that I want to pass on to the young riders. And I'm proud of being, 48 years old, turning almost 49 next year. And being in the shape and condition that I am, because I don't take that for granted one day, and most of all, that I still have the motivation to actually go out and do those things, because it doesn't come for free, when you're cycling, 250 or 300 kilometers a week. I'm lucky that I have a job that allows me to do this and plan my own day, but it's not like I'm not working. I'm just doing it in different time of the day, but I choose to get early up in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, to get ready to go out and do my drills. Well, some people could also just get up at 8 o'clock. Nobody is standing there and telling me to get up, but it's something that I have inside me, that I want to do this because it makes me actually more happy. It's something that I feel good about.
It's obviously the choices as well, mate, and you will get back onto that sort of transition from a rider to a coach, I guess, but just we'll touch on Prado. Pretty interesting about the supercross. There's obviously a lot of chat that he might be lining up next year at A1 and do a couple, but it's very interesting, listen to that podcast with Jace from Gypsy Tales. Really cool dude. I've done a podcast with him few months ago, and he does those interviews so well, so always cool to see another Aussie as well, mate, getting the accent out there. But no, it's just so many variables, and there's always learning to go on even when you're that good, isn't there, mate? There's so much that can be taught and still gained, and just the way to manage a season. So do you think he does the supercross? Obviously the skill set adaptation is probably a little bit easier for someone like him with that fundamental base skill set and just the talent that he has and the way he approaches things. He's like a very stable, connected rider. He doesn't often do like the crazy crashes. Everything's in line, and I guess the technique allows him to ride in a safe manner as well, doesn't it? Which bodes well for supercross, even though it is just an absolutely different beast and essentially a different sport. But if he does go down that avenue, it'd be really interesting, because one thing is riding and training, and then racing it is a completely different animal. So it'll be a cool story to follow, mate. Where do you think he goes? And I guess what are the key principles that hold him in good stead to actually succeed on supercross, and maybe some things that might be a challenge? Obviously the whoops will be, sometimes the smaller guys struggle with the whoops, but just your take on all of that, mate.
Yeah, you know what? It's always scares me a little bit. I've seen great world champions going from being very successful in Europe and then going over to start doing supercross. My own experience with supercross is very little. I've always been a rider that loved to jump and do things, but once I actually started making a career in motocross, I kind of thought like I stick to this and try to see how far I can bring that. But I've always been very impressed with supercross, and I think of course Prado have all the talent in the world to be able to do it. And you would probably when we had Greg Albertine back in the days announcing that he's going to the US and do supercross, you're thinking, holy shit, he is that is not gonna go well. But he did fairly well. He won an outdoor 250 championship in 99, I believe. And he was very good. But there's definitely certain riders that you think, if let's say Jeffrey Hurlings would announce that he's going to go to the supercross, I will probably be a little bit more concerned if I was the KTM manufacturer, or even for him personally. That's just my opinion. Maybe I could be completely wrong. Tim Geiser, he did the Paris supercross as well, but let's just not forget that there was no whoops, and I think a lot of it, us can jump and we can speed, but a different kettle of fish when you start approaching those whoops, days almost as high as the bike. And that was that is something that I don't know. I do not know because I'm not there. Prado, they showed, I saw some whoops, but for me, if you if you analyze those small clips, and I'm not sure if I actually I'm completely right about this, but it didn't look like the whoops was actually going in that same direction. But anyway, that's just my little idea. Not taking anything away from him, because I think he's a great rider. But I think that the biggest problem with riding in the US is, of course, the intensity of this, racing in supercross. And like you said, there is a different thing between practicing and going around. I was at Pro Circuit some years ago when I did the World Vet in in Glen Helen, and I was so lucky to get invited out to Pro Circuits, one of the test day, and I was very I was very impressed because some of the jumps you have to turn like triple, and one thing for me to think, looking at the track and think, I can do that. I can maybe jump the jumps and do the whoops, in the preseason, when they're still a little bit smaller, and then they build them bigger, as I understood. I could probably learn to do that, and they will not be too sketchy. But the difference is then when you start racing between triples and doubles, and that speed that they need to go from, let's say, now I'm just pronouncing a number, like 50 kilometers, and then I have to brake on the ramp to go 30 kilometers an hour. And then if they are 5 centimeters or 10 centimeters, whatever centimeters too short or too long, that is the difference between breaking all your bones in the body and carry on, because the next is a left straight after they're actually landing and turning left, and that's where I'm standing there thinking, wow, the timing that they need to do. One thing is that they need to do all the jumps and do them consistency, and the consequences are so high. But to actually be able to race those jumps and scrub and break up and actually feeling with them, people don't realize how difficult that is, when you
all
break
the
speed off and all the calculation, like, okay, now I know I need to go from 60 and to 31 kilometers an hour, and that needs to be sitting there precisely every single lap without a doubt, because if you don't do that, that have the consequences of a lot of things. So that's the thing I could be a little bit worried about with Prado, is like, I don't know how much supercross that he have written, but I do believe no matter what skills you have, no matter what kind of technique you have, to have the racecraft that you will need to do to ride supercross is not something that you just learn. It's something that will take, for me, some years. If you have the same talent and Jorge Prado, I still think it's going to be difficult. If I was him, which I'm not, if I was him, I will just, I would go. I understand the point of view that challenging yourself and living the American dream and maybe become a good supercross rider, which he could. I have no idea. I think nobody really knows what he will do until it comes, racing. And we hear rumors about he's gonna show up at Anaheim 1. If it was me, which is not, and it's only my opinion, I would probably, thinking I want to defend the world championship this year. I don't care so much about supercross. And then when I can find a hole in my calendar, and that's probably going to be after the season, I would go over and I will be specific, working after my second world title, if that's the goal, to be, become a supercross rider as early as I can. When the season is finished, go over there, start riding supercross, because I'm always in a believer, and I've been like that in my own career. My goal was to win a world championship, but I had like always small goals between being, first thinking I'm going to be Danish champion. And when I'm Danish champion, I have nothing more to challenge here. Then I want to be a European champion. And when I have proved that I was good enough to be a European champion, then you go after the big goal, and the big drill is to be a world champion, and that's a lot higher goal, of course, and that takes a lot more year. And for some people, it never happened, but you give you your best shot. But to go and having the talent like Prado and thinking that you do a couple of practicing in supercross, and then you have to do other drills and get ready for the world championship, and then just go over and do a AMA first round. For me, that is very risky business.
Yeah, it's a lot to take on. And I guess with a lot of the Americans, they started so young on supercross, it's like a life's body of work in a lot of ways. It's so hard just to click your fingers. Obviously, he did some many years ago when he was a youngster, and obviously that little stint that he's done now. But whether that's enough preparation, I guess only he'll know. And if he feels confident and the people around him feel like he's ready, I guess he'll give it a crack. But it's a big challenge. Like you see, even at the Newcastle Supercross on the weekend, you see those 85cc kids attacking it. And, there's like a mindset from so young to attack whoops and to attack transitions and sections and know what to do. And just all those little nuances you mentioned, that it takes time to learn all that, and it takes probably the best part of a decade to, get those habits in place to succeed. Like with anything, so much practice needs to go into it. And I know he's a special talent. There's no doubting that, but whether it translates, there's a lot of unknowns, but it's exciting nonetheless, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, definitely. And then, only time can tell. But that's why I said, I can only tell what I would have done if I was in his situation, out from what I have seen over the years. So many great riders going over there. That was the same, and I'm sure that some riders, look back, like Ben Townley, for example, if you take him as example, 2005, he finished sixth in the world, and then in MX1 class, and there was Stefan Everts that was actually settling for retirement very soon, basically in 2006. So if and we can always see if and if, but if I was Ben Townley, I would have stayed in Europe. Trying to beat Stefan Everts in 2006 would probably been very difficult, as his worst place was second place. Otherwise, he won every single moto, almost going for a perfect season. But then 2007, if you see from 2007 up to 2010 properly, or a little bit less, maybe it was wide open. It might, Steve Ramon won a world championship, not, winning a race. I think very few podiums, but just consistent in top 5, top 6. And he won a world championship because, Joshua Coppens lost his rear brake going down in one of the big jumps in Loket in Czechoslovakia. And that was it. And he became world champion, David Philippart as well, which, don't get me wrong, well done and well deserved, but they were not, Ben Townley for sure.
Yeah, so but look back at those turning points, don't you?
I think Ben is looking, maybe he looked back on it, or he doesn't, and said, "Fuck it, I had a good time in the US." But I definitely think it's something like that I'm looking at, and thinking if you can be a world champion and already establish yourself, you're on a good roll, and let's be honest, if you are a world champion and riding for factory, Gas or Husqvarna, you're earning also quite good money and some good bonuses. Matter of how you make the contract, but there's a lot to be gained, and we never know what the future is gonna bring. So I will bring more the consistency of something that I know this is my area. I'm gonna fucking challenge that and get the best out of that, and then once I have proven again that that I can win, then yeah, okay, now I won it 2 times. Now it's time maybe to do the other challenge. He's still young. He's only 22 years old or something like that. So he, of course, have a lot of years. That's why, I will look at the consistency thing. Okay, let me go 1 or 2 seasons. I want to defend that title. I want to prove to everyone with Hurlings in this, because there's always going to be some people talking, saying that, you won it because, Jeffrey Hurlings got injured. Yeah, but that's the part of the game. It's, when someone get hurt, but if we can bring it again, and Jeffrey Hurlings will come down to, hopefully a whole season next year, and Prado still wins it, it'd be like, yeah, okay, no more questions have to answer,
Yeah, it's really interesting. Obviously, there's a lot of guys that want to attack that Supercross challenge. You look at the Coonan brothers. We just posted today the news that they've actually signed a multi-year extension with their respective Husqvarna and KTM teams. Obviously, a lot of talk was that Supercross was on the cards for them in 2025, I believe. So haven't spoken to Lucas a few times. It's an interesting sort of a shift, isn't it? Obviously, that maybe they didn't feel like they were ready, or they wanted a couple more years, like you're saying, just to maybe grasp the gravity of the situation and see where they want their careers to go, because they're so young still. So there's a lot of time. So do you think that's a wise decision? I'm assuming, yeah, to stay in the MX2 and just keep getting that development, getting that racecraft, getting the experience. There's just so much to gain racing in that class, and got a great chance of winning a world championship too, don't they, mate? Especially with Jago out of the class, and it's very open. So sort of sky's the limit in Europe for what they can achieve in the world championship level. Maybe that's the focus for now, at least.
Yeah, I would definitely, if I was one of those guys, which of course they are very talented riders, I would definitely look at, who am I going to go over and challenge? And if you're going to go over and challenge, Hayden Deegan, well, he's been riding Supercross on extreme surfaces since he was, 6, 7, 8, 10 years old. I would not even, probably take that challenge. I will again, once you are not become a world champion, and even if you become a world champion, I will again looking it for myself for a financial point of stand as well, and thinking, I can make this money here. I can, if I become a world champion, I will defend that world champion, because then my pay rises is of course a lot bigger. The bonuses are completely different, and there's a lot of things that I will be thinking of, even if I have a lot of passion for the sport. And like I said, my motivation to become a professional rider and to win races was not only affected by the money that I could win. It was my like a personal battle. But I also know from the fact that when this sport is and is a high risky sport, I would probably look more at them thinking, okay, so what can I make if I go over here compared to the risk and the competition that I have, and despite what people are saying. What about if I have a chance to win a world championship in MX2 that I can maybe do because I'm young? I can maybe do that 2 times. And then, you definitely know that when you're riding for a manufacturer like that, you get a decent amount of bonuses. And then you can maybe take some risk if you want, but then you're kind of secured financially as well. And it's always a lot easier to come over to bring a title, and I'm the world champion, and it gives a different punch than like I hope I could have been a world champion. It's like it doesn't really, and especially coming over to America. I believe I never raced in America in AMA, but I can believe it's as hard as for me coming from Denmark, being nobody, and then coming into it takes a lot of time to get settled and knowing competitors and get confidence with the people, because a lot of people want to rather bring you down than bring you up, because nobody likes to see someone coming over and dominate the AMA Supercross or AMA Outdoor, being from another country. We've seen that with the French people many times, and it's really tough. I can imagine it's a really mental drag all the time, because you don't have the people around you. And it's the same with Caroli. I mean, Caroli was as good as he was because he got in with the Carly so early. It was like a family for him. Would the Caroli been as good if he went to the US? No, absolutely not. I don't believe that, because Caroli is who he is, and he likes family around him. He likes, be around the Carly. That was his little circle of people. And that was the people that believed in him and took him to the level when he had downs in his career. Because let's face it, like when you're winning and you're doing everything is great, you can almost fly. But when you don't do that and you have injuries, that's where you need people around you to support you and bring you up again, And I think that's a very important part of being successful, is actually being smart and choosing, thinking this is my base. This is what I want to do, and this is where I can be successful. And then people can tell, yeah, but let's come over here, like with Hurlings and Eli Tomac. I'm gonna come over in the, when you heard the Gypsy Tale, I believe it was when he was saying, yeah, I would like to do a race and where we drill everything down, and we do it one more time, because Eli already won the title when I was over there, so people didn't maybe get the full respect for that, But I'm thinking, like, why is this important? Everyone knows that Jeffrey Hurlings, is without a doubt one of the fastest guys in the world riding a motorcycle, and you don't have anything else to prove, and you have already done enough. You're the fastest and the most incredible sand rider in the world, and determination that what you ride with, you're already proven enough. Do you need to settle for one race to be who is? Nah, I don't think it's necessary, mate. I think you've already done enough. This is my opinion, but we all, of course, different, and that's okay.
I suppose if there's money on the table, that definitely talks. But yeah, those one-off races, it's just not good if something happens. If you get injured doing that, you think, well, what a waste, especially when you look back at Febvre at Paris Supercross a couple of years ago when he broke his leg and missed the season. Like, it's just, that's not your goal to race Paris Supercross, even though the money's there. It's obviously tough to tell him that, and a lot of planning goes into these things, but he must have had a lot of regret about that injury for sure, mate. And I guess you look at that, and you talk on that, and then we'll go on to the transition from a rider, a professional like yourself, to a coach. How that is, obviously you miss that adrenaline rush and that sort of competitive edge in those environments and situations, which you don't get anywhere else but racing or playing at a high level, whatever your chosen field is. So that's obviously something that's a tough management process, a tough thing to adapt to, but sounds like you've done it extremely well. Obviously the success is down to certain things like communication and conveying your message, because that's, you hear a lot of what we're saying, professional soccer players, athletes in many sports. It doesn't really, sometimes it just doesn't work. The coaching, they're at such a high level and they demand perfection from their fellow professionals, but they're just not at that level. They're not at their expectation of what they should be. And it's frustrating. And they're like, why can't they do it? It's just not acceptable that they can't do it, even though they're elite at what they do. So trying to find that balance and, work with people and deal with so many different types of personalities. It's not an easy thing to deal with. And obviously, having pressure on top of that you want to put on yourself, and the players or the people that you work with, they obviously expect, improvement from you. So there's so many factors to deal with. So I guess that competitive nature worked really well for you, trying to maybe impose your sort of skill set and what you've learned and taught over the years. That must be a pretty cool challenge, mate. And I guess obviously you love what you do. So just tell us about the dynamic of it all and how it was for you personally from finishing your career to now.
Well, it's a really, really tough transaction, because you're building up identity. You become successful, and you're coming to have like a certain amount of how can you say, fans around you all the time. People want to ask for an autograph, and you're like, fuck yeah, I'm good at this, and it's always about, for me also, to keep my feet on the ground at the same time, even if I was winning or I was losing or whatever. So that thing I have quite established in myself through my family and the way that I was brought up. But then talking about the transaction of actually knowing that now it's actually towards the end, because let's face it, when you're actually in it, and even if you know that you're getting older every year, you don't actually really want to recognize that this, you kind of think that you're going to carry on, and this is never going to stop. This is what you're kind of mentally thinking, but deeply inside that it's going to have a stop one day. It's just about, when is it actually time to stop? And I think that's difficult to define for many riders, because it's a lot of the times not in a place where you have to choose it yourself. It's something that comes up either with an injury, or maybe there's no rides left where you feel that you can progress anymore with a team. And that can be all different from each rider. For me, it was many small injuries, and I had some knee injuries that then causes that I start getting some problem in my back, and I had a quite a big concussion in 2005, which I actually run through my whole career for so many years without having any concussions. And in 2005 in Agueda in Portugal, I crashed in a morning practice and did a huge compression on my right side of my head, and kind of lost completely focus. Stefan Everts' dad, Harry Everts, was standing on the side, and he saw the crash, and he later told me that it was really weird, because I got the compression, I got knocked out for a couple of seconds, and then I kind of picked up the bike, and I was riding for factory Yamaha at that time, as Stefan Everts was my teammate, and I went straight off the track, into the pit lane, and my own mechanic, which is now, I believe, one of the chief engineer at factory HRC, he was my own mechanic at Honda at that time in 2004, 2004. And this was the 2005 season. I went over to him, my own mechanic from Honda, and I said, Marcus, I'm going to drive up in the van. And he looked at me, he's like, why do you say that to me? So I said, well, because you're my mechanic. And he was like, no, mate, I'm not your mechanic anymore. You're riding for Yamaha. And I was like, all right, no problem. And I drove straight up, and I put my bike inside the Honda Tende. So there was obviously something that was not right. So then I walk out of the tent, and the Honda guys was walking towards me, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And I just walked straight on, went down in my camper. Didn't realize all this is happening because I was still, I was awake, but I was out, and went down in the camper. Michele Rinaldi and Carlo Rinaldi was the team manager of Factory Yamaha at that time. They came down and apparently took me out and did a lap on the track, and I do not remember anything, which actually is pretty scary in some ways. But anyway, I had this massive concussion. I lost 7 hours of my memory. After that, I definitely start getting some small problems with concentration because I never had a concussion in my life before. And when you break something or you have something that you need rest, it's very easy to say, okay, 3 weeks rest and you'll be back. You feel okay, your joints okay. But here in the head, it was a very confusing thing for me because I was standing between, don't be so fucking weak, of course, there's nothing wrong. But then I went on the bike very, very early after the crash. And, it's difficult to make tests on your head exactly what it can do and what it cannot do. So you have to kind of go, and then you're playing with your strong mindset, thinking, you don't quit. It doesn't matter if you can fucking look out of your eyes. You're not dead, and then you just get on with it. But then when I start riding, I start losing, the feeling. I forgot to brake, and suddenly I forgot the gear, and it was like all confusing. So, but anyway, there was a lot of things that happened that year, and I had another small concussion that year before Namur, and then like I told you that story about Namur, then I had a week off, and then I went out and won that first race by 18 seconds, and it was like, how is that even possible? But in the second moto, my eyes was like completely, because then it was difficult for me to concentrate. So that's why I start making mistakes again and lost the Grand Prix, because of that thing. So there was a lot of things that my body was dealing with too much stress. So for me to say that it was now, it took a lot of long cycling for myself. And I remember the first person that I actually, wanted to hear the reaction from was my mom. So, there was a lot of like, leading up to this thinking, is it over? Because it's something that you don't really want to realize. But for me, it was also important for myself to be completely honest that, if I could not advance and being a championship contender, pushing myself to higher limits, to better limits, then I just didn't have any interest. I felt that I was too honest of a person to tell someone, yeah, you can pay me a lot of money, because at that time, Aprilia actually offered me a lot of money because they came in with this new bike. And, I just said no, because I knew the bike would not going to be good enough. And I knew that I was not going to be good enough. So what is the point of getting a lot of money if I cannot back it up? And I wanted to be, honest for my fans, that the fans that came and watched me, they will always see a guy that do 100%, racing hard as I can, showing that I am here to battle with the best in the world. And if I could not do that anymore, honestly, the interest was just not there anymore. And I start getting pain in my back. I had some problem with the coccyx because I broke them many years ago. And as soon as I hit like my seat towards my bum, the coccyx will bend, and then I will get so much pain. And I remember this, it was such a difficult time because I could be 100% fine, and then in time practice, the seat could hit me like really hard in the back, and then it could just block my whole back, and then I will not be able to move. And I was like, then people coming over, yeah, but you were okay 2 laps ago. Yeah, but fucking, I didn't want to be feeling that I'm telling excuses not to race, because there was something that I really loved was to race, and I fucking work hard to be in that position to race with the best in the world. And if I couldn't do that anymore, then that was it. So anyway, I announced it in Europe in 2006 that I could not. I had to stop, and I didn't want to race anymore. And it was really tough. And when I made that announcement was a couple of weeks before when I actually called my mom. And funny enough, because of the situation I was in in my youth with my own dad passing away. My mom was like a really, how can I say, when she said something and she agreed on something, then it was correct, you know. It was not like I was doubting her opinions. And I always asked her for small opinions, and when I got those opinions, it was rule, you know. It was like a rule. This is what I do, you know. So I waited a long time. I didn't say to anyone around me that I was thinking about stopping. And then I called my mom one evening when I've been out cycling a long time, and I thought this is it. But I had to collect my courage to actually speak with her, you know, and say this. And I said to her, "Mom, I think I'm gonna stop my racing. I feel that I cannot be better than what I already have been." And she said to me, "I think that's a good choice. Pack your stuff and come home." You know, and that was it for me. That was the main decision. But then actually, you know, doing it and stopping and going to, you know, Motocross of Nation in 2006 at Madley Basing, you know, knowing that this is the last time that you're gonna see your family, if you can say it like that, you know, because the people at racing and fans and riders and, you know, team bosses, and they become your family as well, because you're spending so much time with them. And it's really difficult to leave that, you know, leave that all. It's all your identity that suddenly just stops, and then you like, you know, next morning you're looking at yourself, and then you're thinking, who am I now? You know, without the motocross gear, without the fame and the capacity and capabilities that I have of riding a motorcycle, which most people, you know, would give their right hand for. So what am I actually now? And that was something that it took me a while, because I didn't have a plan written up, because I always thought, if I already have the plan of what I want to do when I fail or when I stop, it's gonna be quite bad towards the end anyway. And that's where, for me, things could happen. So when I say that I'm gonna stop, there was only one race left, and that was it for me, you know. And I
Process
think
of
for me that was
acceptance, isn't it?
yeah, and that was the acceptance of actually thinking there's no return of what you just said. You know, you're not gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna do it again, and I'm gonna come back because now I completely gonna redeem myself. It was a very tough decision, but I knew that decision after a little while was the right thing for me, and move on in life. Because at the moment when you are in the sport and you are achieving and you want it to be better, you do actually believe that there's nothing else in life that there is to live for. And you know, sometimes I even think, you know, well, is there any other life than motocross after this, you know? But I slowly find out, and slowly, you know, I kind of took a year off everything, and I moved back to Denmark and did the Danish Championship, because I kind of wanted to finish that off. You know, I started, you know, winning a Danish Championship in '86 or something like that, and this was 2007. So I wanted to actually finish my career on the same brand that I started on when I won my first Danish Championship in '85 on a Kawasaki. So I signed a contract with Kawasaki Denmark and finished my last year of winning the MX1 title there. And then that was it for me. And then I was lucky that the transaction was an interesting part for me, because I wanted to become a coach and a trainer. And why I wanted to do that was because I feel I learned so much, and I took, you know, so much courage to learn myself how to become who I become. And that's why, you know, from when we talk about, you know, winning in Teutzenthal, you know, people are like, but you only won that one race. But for me, that one race was really just the bonus of actually all those hard work, all those many years of hard work, you know, not having anyone to actually guide me or lead me in the direction that I want. And actually that day I was the best rider in the world championship, I beat the 8 times world champion. So how I find those tools, like I said, the goal and the trophy was not the most important thing. It's actually the road to standing with that trophy, which became very interesting for me and became something that, fuck, this is what I want to do. I want to give other people that opportunity and to learn from me, because I'm sure that if I learn things a lot faster, if I had a coach, like I said before, when I had all the tools in the box, in my rucksack, I had all the tools to become a world champion. It was almost like it was too late, and because I had to learn by my mistakes all the time. My body and my mind took definitely a certain, punch of all this, and it was difficult for me mentally to keep going and keep pulling myself up. Oh, you're gonna do it again now. Oh, another injury. Oh, you can do it again. It takes so much energy from your body, and that's why I think I wanted to be a coach and learning people, transferring all the skills that I have learned, because I said always there's difference between reading the book or writing the book, and I felt I write the book in many ways of the way that I teach, because it's something that I had to think about. It's something that I had to be creative about. Do this off the rear brake, or see something of Stefan Everts or whoever it was that had some different skills than me, and then actually taking those skills and bring it into my own writing style, but still keeping myself as Brian Jorgensen, and keeping the best of the skills that I developed myself.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So
Obviously, analyzing things is a key part of it as well. It's like they say in other sports with, tactical analysis and whatever. It's like, are you watching the game, but are you watching the game? There's so many different things going on that some people notice to the casual fan that's not even there, but to the experienced analytical eye, there's just so much you can see all the time. So I guess it must be pretty cool for you to share your knowledge and then apply it to helping others, which is another way you can sort of, spread the word and also use your skills in such a positive way, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, and for me that was a good way to kind of transact and kind of like go over to be a coach and try to be the best coach, the best version of myself, without comparing myself with other coaches, because I believe, when people come and say, but you are better than this and you are better than that, and I'm always saying, I don't think I'm better than anyone. I'm always trying to beat myself, and I'm trying to come across in the best way for you to learn from me. And in the beginning, when you stop your professional career, I remember myself thinking, I just want to work with the best in the world. There's no one else that I want to work with. That's why I became the national coach of Denmark, working with TKO and Rasmus Jorgensen and those people that are still in. TKO has been second and third in the world championship of 250, and Rasmus Jorgensen is running the Nestang Husqvarna factory 250 team. So, hopefully I have brought something to the table for some of the people, and more also give them hope that, if I can do it with my story and with the mindset that I have, I believe that everyone can do it. It's not about only having the skills. It's about the consistency and the belief that you have in yourself to keep want it so much that you will get up the next morning and you try to perfectionize of what you already did the day before, and then you perfectionize that day to the next day, and always want the best out of yourself. And I always said, pressure for me, there's nobody can put as much pressure on my shoulder than I can put on myself, because I'm the guy that it's achieving the goals. I'm the guy that doing the drills. So if anyone wants it bad, then it's me, because I am sacrificing, I am using my body towards this. I also have to pay the consequences of making mistakes and doing, stupid things, or not having the patience to actually wait for the results. And that way I learned a lot, and something that, when people are going fast today and they want to be fast, and, when we're talking about parents and riders, I'm not going to be, coming to my school is not a miracle. A miracle is when you can actually keep the consistency of coming back, or wanted to work hard yourself as well, because it's not only in my training school that we do those drills, and we do on boot camp, we do recuperation, and the cycling and everything else. What we do is not something that we only do in my camps. It's something that you should hopefully put into your routine, so you want to do it at home, because that's where you become good. I'm only here to provide the tools for you, and the consistency, and the drills to make you better. But you're not going to be a lot better today or tomorrow, but you're going to be a lot better in 6 months or 12 months, and that's how you have to work with it. But I'm giving you the tools to say what you have to work with, and then it's totally up to you to keep doing those things, because we all know that it's the consistency of what you do that makes a difference. It's not I'm not like you come to training school in red sand and then you're going to be like 10 seconds faster. But I'm definitely going to give as much tool, as much inspiration and positivity that I have learned over the years to bring with you home. And, I do speeches as well, also to bringing in the parents, how to deal with combined of goals, because like I said, if you don't have the same common goals, if the dad thinks you're going to be world champion and you only have the goal of becoming a club champion or a national champion, then we are maybe on two different pages, and that's why it's so important to actually communicate as parents and kids, and actually finding out what is the goal and how do we reach this goal. Is that even realistic with the time and the money and everything? But we have to do this, and that's a big part of success, and that I feel is my job, to give this speeches and knowledge that I have over the years, and also the way that my family, how they approach racing, and why I still love riding and racing and training today, is because that I was never pressured into to become who I become. I got the tools, not incredible tools, not with a lot of money, but I got enough tools to be able to do the job in the best way that I could at that time, and then it was totally up to me. And you can imagine with the upbringing that I have, with losing my dad when I was 16, if I didn't have that self-drive, I mean, I would just have stopped, because, let's put it to the fact that there was a lot of money. So if I didn't take the ball from here, I said, okay, I want to hand that over for me to become a professional or live out those goals. If the ball was just stayed on the ground, and I would just have stopped when I was 16, and then I could live in the, and I could have blamed my dad from, having cancer and everyone else around me. But I took that ball because I wanted to show to myself, it's not about, how much money you have. It's about the will and determination you have to drive your own life and go after your own goals, because nobody can do that for you. And I think that's an important message to give out to the parents today. Is like, you can only lead the horse to the water, and you cannot make it drink, and that's I feel it's important for me to give that out, and then people can take it or leave it, but this is the truth.
Yeah, it's absolutely, mate. It's almost like a skill in itself, speaking to all the riders and trainers, to be that committed, to be that dedicated, to want it so badly, because there's so much that goes into obviously being a professional in any chosen field, and it's got to be a complete package, all working, right direction for success, isn't it, mate? You can't sort of dip in and out when you want to, pick and choose. It's got to be like everything's got to be done, like you said, with consistency and longevity, because it needs to be worked at. The body of work needs to be massive to get to where you want to be. And I guess with kids, you probably have that battle with the parents. Does the kid want it, or does the dad want it? And it all comes down to like the stuff we said before. Do they love it, and do they want to make this a career? And also, do they want to have fun, enjoy it, which is an important part of doing it, because that's why everyone gets into bikes in the first place. But there is levels to, success, and levels to what you want to achieve, and, pressure you want to put on yourself. And the drive is the key thing, isn't it, mate? If the drive's not there to be a world champion, you just got to readjust the goals, which is probably sometimes easier for the parents than the child to manage, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally true. Like when you at the people come on your camps, and you can only provide the same tools. The tools are not different from the guy that really wants it, or the guy that just here because he wants to be a little bit better, or maybe even the dad told him to be here, But honestly, I do see that, and I don't judge any people. I not everyone have to be like me and have the same drive, and probably some people think that I'm crazy, and that's okay, because I still have that drive to improve myself, and I want to be a better coach, and I want to be in good shape, and I want to do a lot of things, and that's my drive, and maybe some people think that that's crazy that you still want to push yourself, but fuck, that's me, and I don't judge me, and I don't judge anyone else for being less competitive, or have less goals or whatever. If people want to come down on my school and they just want to be a club champ, they're more than welcome, and they're going to get the same tools. It's basically, here's the tools. You can take it. They're here on the shelf. You can take it down if you want. And I know that tool is going to make you a better rider, but it doesn't come for free, because if you want to be a better rider and you want those tools on that shelf, you need to start drilling down and working hard, not only when you want it, unfortunately, but also when you don't feel like you want it, because that's where you start taking out the emotions from what you're doing. And that's was something like I told you earlier, that's something Carmichael also taught me. He said I learned to be completely emotionless, for what I want to do and what I don't want to do, because I just need to do the drills, and if I didn't do it, my mom would surely show me that I need to do it, so that was a different way of doing things there, but it's okay to be pushing your kids to be better if he asks that he wants to be pushed. Like Caroline Wozniacki was one of the best tennis player that we had in Denmark, became, maybe many times Wimbledon winner. When I was at the National Federation, in Team Denmark, which is a big organization for sports people in the world, with a big community of all the best trainers and sports people, they always talk to me a little bit about, said, yeah, but Caroline Wozniacki's dad, he was Polish, they were Polish, but moved to Denmark, and he was pushing her, and he's a mean person. And I said, there's nothing wrong with pushing her, and especially not if it comes from her mouth saying, I want you to push me to the limit, because then I know I perform on the highest level. So where's the limit there? I don't know. But, it doesn't matter. She became one of the most successful tennis player in the world, and, made a lot of money, so she doesn't have to do anything else. So I kind of think that that says enough, and that's okay when you agree on it. But what is not okay when you don't agree on it, I don't want to be pushed, and then you don't, you let them do. And like I said, for myself, I just love riding, and I love to perform, and I love to race, because my family gave me that freedom to, here is the bike. We drove you out to the race. If you want to win, it's up to you. If you don't want to win, the bike is still going to be there standing with 10, 20 liters of fuel, which I think it's completely amazing when I think about it and what I see today, giving me that freedom just to ride and have fun and smile, and if it was a good day, they would clap me on the shoulder and thinking, I'm awesome. But if it was a bad day, they would still clap me on the shoulder and thinking that I'm awesome, because it's not their achievement. They're just here to support me. And believe me, when as a racer and being young and being older, when you have done a good race and when you have done a bad race. There's no doubt in the mind, because it stands here. Either you come home with a trophy thinking that was an awesome day with 1, 2, and 3, whatever your goal is, or you have a fuck all, and then you're not so happy, maybe. So that's my opinion, mate. But yeah, that's just being me.
Yeah, mate, it's pretty cool. You just sort of give them the framework and the principles and the fundamentals, and it's up to them in the long run, ultimately, what you want to do with it and how you want to run with it. So that's pretty awesome, mate. Yeah. We've just ticked over about 100 minutes now. So just to finalize the podcast here, mate, any final thoughts and what's the upcoming plans for the off season? I'm sure we'll be chatting in a couple of weeks anyway, but you probably just look forward to being back at home after spending some time in France there with the Blue Crew, the Yamaha thing. So yeah, it's been an awesome chat again, mate. There's so much gold in here as well. You could probably keep chatting for another 8 hours and there'd still be stuff to talk about, mate. But anything you want to say or shout out to your riding schools that you've got coming up. So give you a chance to do that now.
Yeah, like it's gonna be busy from now on. On Sunday, the starts. I have like a fitness cycling camp, and there will be 1 week of working on the bicycle, of course, and doing gym work because I created those camps, and they're gonna come more and more for the future. I created those camps because I realized the benefits of being prepared, physically, and that means also naturally start being mentally. And then my MX boot camp starts in Red Sand in the 10th of November, 10th of December, and then it carries on. But if someone wants to, look at some information, they can go in on mx8.dk, and you can see the different camps there over New Year from the 29th to the 6th of January. It's very busy, and then I have another boot camp in the middle of January, and again one in we can say the winter holiday here in Europe in week 7. So if people are interested in that, they can always look at my mx8.dk or even contact me on Brian Jorgensen MX School on Instagram or Facebook. So yeah, I'll be more than happy to help people and give them the years of experience, and it doesn't matter if you want to be a world champion or you just want to be a little bit more safe on a bike, or even just come down in the sun and just ride. Like I said, it's totally up to people, and the end of the day is to have fun with what we do, and then hopefully some people maybe think it's like me, but it's fun to win, and it's fun to win races, and the drills behind that takes of course a lot of hard work. But that's it, mate. But otherwise it's going to be a busy winter, and hopefully another good year next year with the Blue Crew and the riders that I'm working with for European Championship and World Championship. I have also a girl that I'm working with called Lucy Barker, which is going to do her first year in the World Championship. She became European champion in the 125 this year, and I'm very excited to work with her and her brother for next season. So I have quite a few. I don't know why, but I have quite a few people that I work with for the UK because I am Danish. But I think it's because I lived over there for quite a few years. I became a British champion in 2001, so I have a good fan base over there, and I work with some good riders over there that hopefully that I have gave some good tips and routines, and hopefully can achieve their goals. So anyway, thanks a lot for having me on the podcast again, and I hope that people again can benefit for some of the things that we are talking about. So thanks a lot for that.
Absolutely, mate. Well said. Thanks for taking the time to join us, and it's definitely, thanks to the listeners for, listening to these and enjoying them and providing the feedback, because that's a lot of the time that sort of predicates what we talk about or which guests we get on. So it's been awesome, the feedback. And before we let you go, mate, we'll just thank the sponsors in Fly Racing, Monster Energy, Fox, Parts Europe, Scott, Bell Helmets, Acherbys, AS3 Performance, Kawasaki UK, KTM UK, O'Neill, and of course Even Strokes for all their incredible support, as without them there is no us. So all the best with everything upcoming, mate. We look forward to speaking again soon.
Yeah, and then like I said, if someone wants to comment and there's something specific, let's take the next podcast up to the listeners and maybe let them guide us of what they want to hear. It could be funny stories from the past or whatever. There's no limits, but let's see what they say, and then when we get some response on this, then we can prepare another podcast over the winter here.
No worries, mate. All the best, and we'll speak soon.
Okay, thanks a lot.